Within the world of interior design, it's essential not only to verbally communicate your ideas and your design, but rather to visually show your ideas for a design. With that said, one of the most effective tools that you can use as an interior designer is going to be a materials board. And a materials board, if you've never heard that term before, is just a tangible board that includes different fabrics, materials, imagery, just anything onto a surface that will convey your design ideas and kind of get across the point to the builder. In order to reach the final product of a material board, there are certain steps that you'll have to walk through in order to reach this final product. And the steps are going to be outlined throughout this presentation. It's going to be a series of preparation, then it'll be the sizing and cutting of your board, it'll then be gluing and stuffing, you'll then follow that with final placement, and the last step is going to be the labeling of your board. Right now on your screen, you're going to be reading the word preparation, and in my opinion, preparation is one of the key parts of this entire process, because preparation is where you take the designer's vision and you make it a reality. So the designer will, on any flat surface, lay out exactly how their materials board is intended to look. They will fold fabric samples to the proper size and they'll layer them in whatever order they please. And at that point, it's your job to remember exactly how they've put it together. But let's be honest, it's so difficult to remember all of those different fabrics and the places that they existed. So one of the most essential tips that I can think of is to just snap a little photo right before you get started, because we all know it's going to be a hard process to grind your brain and remember. After this preparation stage is over and done with, it's then time to take these different fabric samples that the designer laid out for you, and you're going to size them to exactly how they'd like. So when they folded these fabric samples for you, it's their way of saying, this is exactly the size that I want to see each material on my board. So I'll take each material in its folded state, I'll just stack them all up onto each other, and I'll make it a point to then whip out my ruler. I'll measure length by width, and I'll write the measurement down on a sticky note. I'll do this over and over again, and it's definitely a repetitive process, but it keeps you organized and it's very necessary. After all of these sticky notes are done, I'll then go grab a piece of poster board from wherever I can find it, and I'll get my X-Acto knife and I will start cutting away. So when I'm cutting, I'm always making sure to estimate up a little bit on each side in order to accommodate for any error that might occur in case I slipped with my X-Acto knife and cut a little too far, or just any crazy incident that could happen. After these pieces are all cut of the poster board, it's then time to cut the fabric to each poster board. So what you're going to do is you'll lay out your fabric, and you are just going to set that little piece that you've cut of poster board on top of the fabric. Once you do that, I then always grab my ruler again. Your ruler is your best friend, and I'll measure out an inch on each side away from the poster board. And this is just so that later on you can fold over the different pieces of fabric and mat board won't be showing on any of the sides. So this is just an essential step, and after you've completed that, you're just going to grab your scissors and cut that fabric to the exact scale that you'd like. After the sizing and cutting stage is over and done with, it's time for the gluing and stuffing stage. So gluing and stuffing is just a way to make the fabric samples a little more dimensional and just a little bit nicer appearing. So what you're going to do is you'll lay out your fabric underneath your piece of mat board. And if you did follow the steps before, your fabric will have 1-inch overhangs on each side that surpass the different poster boards that you're using. So what you're going to do is then you'll grab your hot glue gun that you've been heating up for a couple of minutes already, and you're going to take the glue gun and you'll go across one of the overhangs. Once you do that, you'll secure it onto the mat board and you'll just press down, give it a nice tap. After that's done, then I always go across onto the other side that I have just folded, and I'll do that one next. So this is just a habit. I'm not sure exactly if there's a technique behind it, but it's just something that I always make sure to do. So I'll do the next piece that's across from the first one that I did. And after that, you're going to glue a third piece. And once you have 3 pieces glued onto the poster board, you're then going to have a little pouch that's ready for stuffing. So once you are ready for this step, you're going to go ahead and grab some stuffing. It's normally near me, it's underneath the table, typically at the place that I work, and I'll just go ahead and grab some of the Pilo-Fill and I will rip it up a few times. This is just to make it a little bit more smooth going into the little pouch. And so I'll grab some of this filling and I'll just plop it on into the board. And right now you're going to see exactly how I'm doing it. I'm just again taking the piece and kind of going at it and just pushing it in. Once you've gotten your piece to a point where you're happy, I always say that it should be a little less than 3/4 of an inch thick, because then it's not an overwhelming thickness, but it's still definitely noticeable. Once you do that, you're going to take your hot glue gun, your trusty hot glue gun again, and you're just going to fold the other layer onto itself, and that will secure all of the filling into the fabric swatch. And then it's on to the next step. After this gluing and stuffing stage is all over and done with, you're going to have a nice big pile of stuffed fabrics. And these stuffed fabrics are ready to go back onto the materials board in the original format that you were given by the designer. So in order to do that, you're going to have a surface. And to get this surface, you're going to find a black piece of foam core. And so this foam core is normally provided by the person that you're working for, and in this case, at my office, it's always provided for me. I'll grab that black foam core and I will find a poster board that's fitting and it matches precisely what the black foam core sizing is, and I'll place that on top and I'll secure it with some glue, and then I'll cut down a piece which will be 3/4 of an inch smaller than the mat board that fits the black foam core, and I will plop that right on top. And this just gives it a nice little border and makes it look a little bit nicer. So after this is all said and done, you're going to lay out the fabrics according to the picture that you took in the original stages, and you're going to lay it out however the designer pleased. At that moment, you're going to go back to the designer and you're going to say, "Hey, would you come look at this?" And they'll come look at it and make any adjustments that they need. And unfortunately, there are usually adjustments that are made. So at that point, the designer will then hand you over the final layout. And in this moment, it's your turn to assemble this final layout and make it into the final product. After you've gotten your finalized plan all laid out and glued down, you have your materials board. The only thing that's left to do at this point is your final step of labeling. And labeling is just a great way of identifying exactly what this project was for, who the designer was, and who the builder you're working with is. And in this moment, you're going to take the same color mat boards that you used before, the two mat boards that were layered on top of the black foam core, and you're going to cut down a 2-inch by 3.5-inch rectangle. So 2 pieces that will be layered on top of each other. After this is all set and done with, you're going to find a nice space to put this on the board, and you're going to glue it down. Once it's glued down, you make your way over to the label maker. And the label maker is an awesome machine that is a typewriter which translates what you type into a sticker. And once the sticker is all done, you're going to press the print button on the label maker, and it just shoots it right out. And once this is done, it's a sticker for you to place back onto that label. When that is done, your final materials board is ready to rumble. With your label on your board, you're ready to go. You're ready to present. This final product is going to be the most important part in conveying design ideas to a client. And through the process of the preparation, the sizing, cutting, and gluing and stuffing of materials, and then the final elements of placement and labeling of the board, you're able to create an incredible visual impact, and it's going to eventually help sell this design.